Welcome to another episode of Aging on the Suncoast. I'm your host, Jason Martino. So each and every year, hurricane season starts on June 1st and lasts through November 30th. While we prepare for all potential hazards, it's extremely important that we spend time preparing for both our county's biggest threat, a hurricane. Back in 2017, both Pinellas and Pasco dodged the massive bullet called Hurricane Irma. Then in 2018, our Panhandle experienced the incredible force of Hurricane Michael. Long-term recovery efforts are still occurring today. Because we've been fortunate, it doesn't mean we stop preparing. This is especially true for the senior population that resides in either Pasco or Pinellas counties. Today's focus is going to be on hurricane planning for independent and homebound seniors. To assist our viewers understand planning and reduce vulnerability, we've invited Jess McCracken, the whole community specialist with Pinellas County Emergency Management, and Andy Fossa, the director of the Pasco County Department of Emergency Management. Today our guests will help shed light on important senior preparedness information. Jess, welcome to Aging on the Suncoast.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, and Andy, welcome to Aging on the Suncoast as well.
Thank you, sir.
So let's talk hurricanes and preparedness. And before we really start talking about it, I want to kind of throw it out there is that what we've seen as professionals in this field for some time now is because we haven't been directly hit for close to over 100 years or so that we see a little bit of complacency. And so we are always trying to mitigate that complacency and encourage people to do the right thing, which is prepare. The second thing that we've seen in the last probably 3 to 5 years is a pretty big influx of people moving to our area from the northern states, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, all of them. And while they may prepare for some of the hazards that they lived through during that time, they certainly haven't prepared yet for a hurricane season. So we want to also encourage them to do the right thing as well. So, Jess, I'm going to start with you. What's the first thing that people do when they're getting into a mode that they're trying to start their planning for hurricane season?
Well, when preparing for hurricane season, we really want you to know your risk, make a plan, and stay informed. And knowing your risk means knowing your evacuation zone and understanding that mobile home communities will always be asked to evacuate in an evacuation order. And once you know your risk, then it's easier to go ahead and make that plan. Yeah. And making your plan should include knowing where you're going to go during an evacuation, having all of your supplies ready for your emergency kit, and communicating all of that information with your family so they know where you are in an evacuation, especially in situations where communication's lost. And finally, staying informed is very important on both sides, communicating with your family, but also having 2 trusted sources of information, whether it's media, our websites, and taking advantage of those to keep yourself informed during storm season.
Absolutely. And we're going to go over a little bit later all those resources where they can get a hold of all that information on there. Andy, does it look any different in Pasco County?
No, sir. The biggest thing that we look at is, as Jess said, 2 bits of information that are trustworthy. Another item is that complacency, not only with the Floridians that are here now, but the Northerners that have come down, they get complacent because nothing has ever really happened. We get bits and pieces of storms that go by, but they think I can outride the storm, and that is not true. Right. Especially in the coastal areas, the mobile home communities, they need to be diligent on watching the weather and the weather reports and go tens of miles. You don't have to evacuate hundreds of miles. Go somewhere with other family members further inland, but you don't have to clog the roads up trying to go from here to Georgia. Yep. So keep it close.
It's funny you said that because I made a massive mistake by going to Georgia during Irma. I took a little pressure from, I'll just say, a family member that was a little nervous during that time, and we ended up in Georgia. And getting back was less than fun. So you're exactly right. Staying close but safe is definitely a good goal. So Andy, we talked about those vulnerable communities. How do people in Pasco County find out what evac level they are?
So we have the Pasco County Disaster Guide, which is online. It shows a map of it. They also have the ability to go to the mypasco.net website. We have it there. And then there's a public side of something called Pasco Mapper. And they can go onto that website and it pulls up the maps and it'll actually show you your evacuation zone.
You gotta love 21st century technology. It makes things just so much easier.
Yes,
for
sir.
us.
Compared to the paper and pen days, yes.
And Jess, what about Pinellas? What are the different avenues people can take to find out their EVAC level?
Very similar with Pasco. We have it in our hurricane guide. You can also go to our website to check your evacuation zone. And with the evacuation zone changes, it's very important that people do check their evacuation zone so they know what to incorporate into their plan. You can check storm.pinellascounty.org, and that gives you a side-by-side map, and it'll show what your evacuation zone was before and what it's been changed to if it's been changed.
That's really cool. That's really cool. The certainly our show is geared towards helping seniors, those with disabilities, and caregivers prepare. Caregivers are taking care of a lot of our vulnerable seniors as well. And not all seniors live in our community in a home or an apartment. A lot of our seniors in Pasco and Pinellas County, they live in an assisted living facility or they live in a skilled nursing facility. But Jess, am I incorrect by saying that these types of institutions don't have plans and residents should know what those plans are?
So these facilities are required by law to have an emergency plan, including where the residents will go and how they will get there. So it's really important that those residents have those conversations and understand the plans, not only to manage their expectations during an emergency, but also to communicate that information to family members, especially, again, if we lose communications during a storm, then your family's going to know where you are and that you're safe.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're beating the drum about communicating.
Absolutely.
I beat the same drum when I'm in the community, is to communicate your plans to your family members. Some of those family members can also probably talk to those institutions and find out what it is, because maybe mom and dad may not be capable of understanding what those are. Same thing in Pasco County, Andy?
Yes, sir. One of the big things that we also need to reiterate is if we move a family member from a nursing home into a special needs shelter and they have a specialized care that they need to provide a caregiver for that citizen, that patient. Because when you're in that special needs shelter, the staffing that is in there will not be capable of taking care of every single citizen that's in there. Mm-hmm. So we try to embed into these skilled facilities that if you're going to send somebody that needs a specialized care, a caregiver or a family member needs to be there with them.
It's imperative.
Yes, sir.
I totally agree with you. So let's talk about options, because the counties are good enough to provide options for people. And certainly the options are staying home or going to a general population shelter or special needs, such as what Andy brought up. So if I were a consumer, a resident of Pasco County, and I elected to stay home because I thought it was a good idea at the time, what are the things that I need to be thinking about in order to make my staying at home journey as safe and comfortable as possible?
So you have to prepare. You have to prepare food for yourself, non-perishable foods. Make sure you have enough water. Your go kits. A very big thing is go kits. In case you do have to leave, it's imperative that you have your insurance papers, your medications, important documents. Another big thing is if you're forced to evacuate, take pictures of your valuables. Insurance companies are getting really, really big on, well, you said you had a 55-inch TV. I want to see a picture of it. Yep. And have those documents with you. If you choose to stay home, make sure your house is boarded up. Make sure you have everything in place. Anything that could be a flying missile is removed. And then if you're going to stay indoors. People have to remember, when that storm passes through, you're going to get a lull. And when that lull, that does not mean the storm is over. That means the eye is passing over you. Still stay inside and then ride out the backside of the storm.
Yep, that's good ideas, and also a good tip about taking video or that. I've walked around my house with my smartphone and just taken a video of everything rather than just the pictures all the time. But you're absolutely right. Insurance is not going to help cover what they don't believe may not be there. So
correct.
Anything different in Pinellas County, Jess?
I think you covered it pretty much, but to reiterate with the insurance side of it, definitely set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
So you can help that adjuster come claim time have all that information and help you get recovered.
Yeah, and I guess I'd just add that if you have the means to hurricane-proof mitigate your home, then that's certainly something that you should take a look at. Bracing those doors, especially the garage door, maybe in investing in some good impact-resistant types of windows, hurricane straps for the roof and all. That would make you feel a heck of a lot more comfortable in there, because the entry points for some of those strong winds are in some of our old housing stock in Pinellas and Pasco County are tremendous, Jess, let's talk about options that if somebody said, I don't feel safe staying home and I'm deciding that I'm going to go somewhere else. What are their options? What does that look like for them?
So there's a few different options. We will always open public shelters in a storm when there's an actual evacuation order needed, but shelter should be a last resort. Now, we don't want you to not evacuate. We want you to stay safe. So if you have to go to a shelter, make those arrangements and plan for that. But the recommended option is to try to stay with a family member or a friend that lives in a non-evacuation zone. Or you can look into hotels, motels, Airbnbs, again in a non-evacuation zone, but have 2 backup plans if you're going to do something like that. Make sure that they take pets if you're going to have your furry babies with you, and know what those plans are during blue skies. Don't be making those arrangements when the storm's barreling down on us.
Yep, and communicate, right?
Right, and communicate.
And thanks for bringing up the pets, because we're going to talk about that a little bit later. There's tons of options that people can take a look at into preparing for their pets, and we have a wealth of seniors that have something that's furry or may have feathers or something of that nature that they're just as important as a family member on there. So Andy, what if they are going to leave in your county? You obviously offer some different options. Does it look the same as it does in Pinellas County?
Pretty much so. We still like to reiterate, like Jess said, that instead of going to a shelter, try to find a family member like the hotel or an Airbnb. Because folks need to remember, you're not walking into a hotel when you go into a shelter.
Yeah.
You're walking into a 20 by 20 space that's going to hold your family, and it's going to be extremely crowded. So we prefer that you find families that are not in evacuation zone, friends, whatever it may be. But if you have to go to the shelter, prepare. It's not a hotel. You're going to be in some dismal conditions. I have to say it like that.
Lifeboat versus cruise ship, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Pasco County, as long as I've worked with you all, and in Pinellas County, we have, and you brought it up earlier, the term special needs shelter. What is a special needs shelter?
So special needs shelter is specifically designed for citizens that do not have the capability to take care of themselves. They're not hospitalized patients, but they're patients that are elderly that need certain types of care. They might be oxygen dependent, they might be electrical dependent, and that's the basic need for that shelter. It's not a place to bring somebody that needs a high acuity care, because we do not have the ability to do that in there. That's why I said earlier, that if you're going to bring somebody in as a specialized care, you need to bring either a caregiver or a family member to take care of them. But this is basically for people for disabilities, mental conditions, O2 conditions, and electrical dependency.
All right.
For in there.
Is there a process for negotiating if that's the most appropriate for them?
Yes, when they fill their special needs form out, there's a bank of questions, and once that comes into our EOC, it's vetted by our special needs coordinator or RN that we had as a volunteer at one time, and they all make the determination if they have the ability to be housed there or they're going to need to find another place to reside them.
And that's super helpful, because that consumer may be filling out the questions on there, but maybe special needs is not the appropriate place for them. Maybe they need to go somewhere that can handle a higher acuity of care. What does that look like in Pinellas County, Jess? Is it similar to Pasco?
Very similar program. I will say that if you are going to special needs shelter, to bring that medical equipment, anything that you use on a daily basis to keep yourself safe and healthy. There are some supplies available there, but it's not going to be enough for everybody. So again, set yourself up for success and bring those things with you.
A to-go kit, just like
Absolutely.
Andy had brought up before, making sure that you have things you need at home and that you would bring later. Medications is obviously super important. So before we end the first half of the show, we have a wealth of seniors that do live in the community in a home or apartment, and a lot of them receive help from home health care, coming in there to help them out with their activities of daily living. What should people know about the companies that provide that care for them?
Well, definitely ask the real questions and get a good understanding of what that continuity of care plan is going to look like. And it's recommended to ask for a copy of their plan to compare it to your personal plan. That way there's no surprises. You know that you're on the same page and everybody knows what to expect.
That's such good information because we deal with a wealth of people that live in all sorts of different environments. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and we'll have you back for the second half of that. Please stay with us while we take a short break. As usual, don't forget to have a pen or pencil ready. During the break and at the end of our show, we'll be highlighting important information covering both Pasco and Pinellas County's disaster preparation resources. When we come back, we'll explore more senior preparedness ideas.
Many of us don't want to believe that elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation can happen to a family member, a friend, or even ourselves. Elder abuse is a growing problem and is severely underreported. Many victims are reluctant to report due to fear, embarrassment, shame, or guilt. In order to prevent elder abuse, we must take action. Don't be afraid to talk about the issue and report it to the Florida Abuse Hotline at 1-800-962-2873. Together, we can make a difference.
Welcome back to Aging on the Suncoast. During the first half of the show, Jess McCracken and Andy Fossa helped us understand senior disaster preparation and sheltering options. So let's continue this conversation and talk about other simple ways we can prepare. Jess, Andy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you all provided such good information on the first half of the show, and we're going to continue that. And we're going to probably talk about a little, some of the little microcosms that people are faced with when it comes to planning and all that. So Andy, I'm going to start with you. Medications is inevitable in our senior population. Many of our seniors are taking on average between 4 and 5 medications to combat whatever is ailing them at that time. How do seniors and or individuals with disabilities or caregivers plan for the need for medications during times of a hurricane?
So it's always, as we preach, it's always good to be prepared. So with medications, you have your normal daily 30-day supply, 90-day supply, whatever it may be. However, when we were being threatened by a storm, the federal government, back with Katrina, went ahead and enacted a new law that gives pharmacies the ability to give you a 30-day emergency supply of the medications. So it's best to get with your doctor, it's best to get with your pharmacy, and go ahead and prepare for that. They're not going to give it to you under a blue sky day, normal day, but if we have an imminent storm coming in, the pharmacies will fulfill that obligation.
Yep, you're totally right. And we found that pharmacists are a good resource, even in the blue skies, because somebody can go there and they can get a running list of what they have. I couldn't remember all the different meds I was taking if I was taking 6 or 7, nor the intervals I was taking it. Does it look any different in Pinellas County, Jess?
Nope, it's pretty much the same, but take into consideration any medications that need to be refrigerated.
Good point.
That's a very big thing that you would need to plan for.
Yep.
So generator or ice packs, something like that.
Yep, and part of your to-go kit or your stay-at-home kit, making sure that you have a way to refrigerate or keep that refrigeration on there as well. Excellent point. Jess, let's stay with you and let's talk about what we kind of brought up very lightly during the first half of the show. We talked about pets. Many of our seniors out there, they have pets with scales, pets with hair, pets with feathers, and these pets are seen just like children or grandchildren. Matter of fact, we've seen some cases where if they didn't think there was arrangements for their pets, they were going to stay home, and that wasn't the best case scenario for them. So what does pet preparation look like in Pinellas County?
Like you said, pets are part of our family, so preparing for your pets very similar to preparing for yourself. You want to know where they're going to be going if they're not going to be staying with you. Preparing their go kit, so their crate, collar, leash, medications, food, and a comfort item, especially if you're going to be going to one of our pet-friendly shelters. Registration isn't required for the pet-friendly shelters, but be prepared to care for your pet. They're not going to be in the same area with you, but you will need to walk them, feed them, and Animal Services is on hand at the pet-friendly shelters to keep all the common areas clean. So that is an option for you.
Yeah, and I think that's very tangential to what Andy was saying, is that while the county is providing a great amount of resources, we can't meet all the needs of the consumers or the residents, excuse me. have to do their part by helping to take care of it. Does it look the same in Pasco County as well, Andy?
Yep, it sure does. The only thing that we require, and Jess pretty much covered everything, was that they have to bring their vaccination records with them in order to get in the shelter. If you bring an animal to the shelter, they have to have their vaccinations, or the shelter has the choice of not to take them.
Yeah, but no registration, no pre.
No, sir.
Okay, that's good stuff to know. All right, so you guys, in addition to providing the options for where people can shelter and encouraging them to do the right things, you have so many logistics going on as well. And one of the things that's probably maddening is the development of your hurricane guide, but once it's out there, it's such a good guide. I've seen it 1,000 different times. I use it. I put it in our many of our consumers' hands as well. Andy, where can people find these hurricane guides in Pasco County?
So they can find them a couple of places. One, mypasco.net website. We have it on there on the emergency management page. And we also have guides at emergency management, and we distribute them to the elderly population, especially the high hazard vulnerability zone. We actually mail them to each resident out there.
Get out of here.
No, sir. We actually do that. Our guide is a little bit different than the standard guide. We kind of broke away from the Tampa Bay Region Planning Council, and we did our own thing. So ours doesn't only encompass hurricanes, severe weather, tornadoes, sinkholes, all flooding, all those items. And then we have a very robust phone number listings for different departments and able to make contact with them.
Yep, and I remember how quick you guys had to update it when the pandemic was in full swing. Still here, but not in the full swing it was before.
Yes, sir.
You come out with guides as well, if I remember correctly, that you do your own specific Pinellas County guide. Where do folks find the Pinellas County guide?
We have electronic copies in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese on our website, and also ADA compliant in all 3 languages, which is a huge resource. You can pick them up if you need 5 or more copies. We have 2 distribution centers, Lealman Exchange, which is in Pinellas Park, and the center, which is in Palm Harbor. And then we have some in government buildings and town halls. And again, we delivered some to schools to hopefully those kiddos took them home and got them in the parents' hands.
That's such a cool initiative. We did that as well. We found that sometimes as professionals that the people we were targeting weren't really listening to us so much. But if you put it in Johnny or Susie's hand and they were to explain the same information, that Grandmom and Grandpa generally would listen to what they said over there. I always thought that was a pretty cool initiative. While we're talking about initiatives, you guys are no strangers to living and learning, finding out what worked in the past and different ways to go forward and then be ahead of the curve, really. So Jess, let's talk about some of the initiatives that Pinellas County has that benefits the residents that live here.
We have the Sheriff's Office Barrier Island Reentry Program, which is for the folks that work and live on the Barrier Islands. You're not allowed access back after an evacuation, so they're going to want that re-entry badge or pass, and you can get that at the Sheriff's Office and some town halls. We've got a storm surge app. You can access that through our website, and it actually will show you in real time your address and what the storm surge will look like. It's a very cool app.
Yep, I've used that app many times, and I actually redid it when the evac levels had changed just to kind of make sure. But it's a pretty cool interactive app to kind of show you that in this kind of situation over here, your house could be inundated, it could not, in that sense. Alert Pinellas too, right?
We have just launched our new Alert Pinellas app, and it's in real time. It'll show you the evacuation zone of where you're actually at that time, or you can look up evacuation zones by address. It also has the Know Your Risk, Make a Plan, Stay Informed, Special Needs information, and it has blue skies and gray skies messaging, so when we get to that point, we can switch the messaging over. One thing that's really neat about it is there is an insurance section where you can actually log all the items in your home, take pictures, and keep that inventory so it's all right there, which I think is a really neat tool.
Yeah, it really is. And if you're watching, we're going to have tons of information during the break and at the end of the show that will help you get in touch with some of these initiatives in Pinellas County. Pasco County is no stranger to thinking forward and moving on initiatives. What's Pasco County doing?
So we have the Alert Pasco app. That's still up and running. We've updated it, and it'll give real-time information on when we're in gray skies, when we're under an activation. Also our social media. Another big thing that we have done now is weather sim stations. We have one in partnership with the state, and we have probably up to 27 weather stem stations now, and they're free to the public. They can go on the Pasco County website, and they can get real-time live data of the weather conditions that are in their neighborhood or area.
That's really cool.
Another thing, as Jess had said, the reentry program. So we've been working in conjunction with our stakeholders, and we found out that after a storm has passed, people need to get supplies and food. So we're worked with Publix supermarkets on working with a reentry program with them so they can get their employees and key staff in to get those stores up and running and get their doors open and hopefully start serving the public again. And then some of our social media sites at times and items like that we have gotten them up and running, because the people are not going to want to sit there. They're still going to want to see the media, the news, and all of that stuff. And we can get that live firsthand back to them.
Yeah, and I think people want to get back to some normalcy as well.
Correct.
So trying to work with some of your stakeholders and so they can get back as quick as possible. You also, I've been on your website numerous times. You also have videos on your website too.
Yes, we have a series of video vignettes. They range anywhere from a message from myself to how to do sandbags, how to make a go kit, how to make a pet go kit. So we have all of that on there on the Pasco website as well.
Super helpful. Super helpful. Let's stay with you, Andy, and let's talk about, everybody has a smartphone in their hand. Some know how to use it a little bit better than that. What types of apps and different types of helpful resources can people find on their smartphone for Pasco?
So there's numerous ones. There's the Alert Pasco app. That's the biggest one. Another, I would watch weather ones, especially Hurricane. There's weather-related ones for storm predictions and items like that. I would pay attention to those. And don't be dependent on one app, because one app is going to give you one thing, another app is going to give you another thing. Use multiple apps and gain a census out of that. Study those so you can get a real-time idea of what's going on. And then, of course, our social media, Facebook app, Instagram, and I'm not going to say TikTok. TikTok, that's up and coming. We actually see a lot of things now being posted by governmental agencies that are using TikTok to put their messaging out.
I think they have to. The world's gone in that direction over there too. Jess, what about smartphones in Pinellas County?
Obviously, the Ready Pinellas, but same channels, Facebook, Twitter. Also, Nextdoor is a really helpful app to use.
Yep, I saw lots of information, especially during the pandemic on Nextdoor. I always use Nextdoor just to find things that I'd like to purchase, golf clubs and some things like that. But I saw a lot of public information officer information going through that, and I guarantee you it got right to the households, just like you're sending these guides to people's houses. Jess, Andy, thank you so much for coming on our show. We covered so much information and all very valuable information. Residents in Pasco and Pinellas County they're really lucky to have you guys helping them prepare for these days there.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks
I
for
enjoyed
having us.
myself this morning.
Good. We hope you learned a great deal from this month's broadcast. We also hope this episode helped you take this hurricane season as serious as you should. At the end of the show, we'll repost some valuable resources available to you. We'll see you next month, and until then, please stay safe and utilize all the resources these two emergency management offices have offered you.
Many of us don't want to believe that elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation can happen to a family member, a friend, or even ourselves. Elder abuse is a growing problem and is severely underreported. Many victims are reluctant to report due to fear, embarrassment, shame, or guilt. In order to prevent elder abuse, we must take action. Don't be afraid to talk about the issue and report it to the Florida Abuse Hotline at 1-800-962-2873. Together, we can make a difference.